Well, the United Nations is sounding another warning on climate change, declaring the window of opportunity to keep global warming below devastating levels is closing fast. The UN's emissions gap report says richer countries are not doing enough or even promising enough in order to cut emissions caused by burning fossil fuels. It says the world's on track to be almost 3 degrees warmer by the end of the century, which would mean catastrophic climate breakdown. People have already heated the planet by at least 1.1 degrees Celsius since pre-industrial times, and the consequences are being felt.
Somalia is in the grips of a devastating drought, turbocharged by human-made climate change. Families like this one in a camp for internally displaced people in central Somalia have been forced to flee their homes in search of food and water. Somalis have done next to nothing to contribute to global greenhouse gas emissions, like much of the global south. But their country is ranked as the second most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. Now, several major UN reports are warning that without urgent action, the world is on the path to even more disastrous warming.
And global and national climate commitments are falling pitifully short. The window to limit global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees is closing fast. Greenhouse gas emissions must be cut by 45% this decade. Under current policies, the world is headed for 2.8 degrees of global heating by the end of the century. In other words, we are headed for a global catastrophe.
Activists and scientists around the world have been ringing the alarm bells for years, turning to increasingly disruptive tactics, like gluing themselves to the roads, as at this demonstration in Munich.
In my field, I was just counting dead trees, I was counting drought, I was counting flooding. I don't want to do that. As an ecologist, you just count dead. You just count hectares of land burning. It's not possible. We know this is happening. Now we need to stop it before our entire planet collapses.
Experts agree that if the world is to have any chance of averting irreversible climate breakdown, immediate action to slash fossil fuel use needs to be taken. But with oil and gas giants raking in record profits, emissions still rising, and governments slow to act, time is rapidly running out.
Well, I asked climate policy scientist Nicholas Herner whether we can realistically halve emissions to reach key goals agreed in the Paris Climate Agreement.
Well, right now we're really far away from that, and it's our 12th report. So for 12 years we do this report, and each time we say the same thing. No, it's getting late. You have to do things drastically different, and the longer we wait with drastic changes, the more difficult it will get. We are saying we are far off. We are not at all in the direction of halving global emissions. We need to do things drastically different. But the longer we wait, it will be more difficult.
OK, so it sounds like that was a long way of saying no, that there is no way you can see these emissions being halved and essentially we're all doomed.
No, actually, I do see a way, and that is, well, we are currently not treating this existential crisis as a crisis. Yeah, we have seen that governments treat crises, the corona crisis or now the energy crisis, they treat it and they do things that seem to be unthinkable before. Yeah, for the corona crisis, we spent a lot of money, or now for the energy crisis, we save a lot of energy in some areas, things that have not been thought possible. And that's why I think we now need to treat the climate crisis really as a crisis and do things that we think are not possible right now. And they are. I mean, we can drastically change our behavior. We can drastically, for example, use more public transport and not private cars. We can change our behavior in eating less meat, for example. We can heat our houses differently. We can use different products. We can all do it, but we really need to move into crisis mode, and that's not happening.
But you've been warning about this crisis. You and others, of course, have been warning about this crisis for years, if not decades. And we've sort of taken tiny steps as the roof burns. So what's in the way? Yeah,
always different issues are apparently more pressing. Right now, it's the energy crisis. It's apparent, it's today, it affects us right now. We don't know how to pay energy bills and things like that. And the climate crisis is always a little bit in the future. But this is changing now. Everybody now has understood that climate change is coming. We have a super hot summer. It's in Europe. We have fires and floods all over around the world. So you can really feel it. And I would say that, well, if you haven't understood it now, when will you? So I think that change hopefully happens now. But you are right. As a scientist, I'm pretty frustrated, I must say, like a broken record. We say this not for the first time. This report is coming out for the 12th time, and we are saying exactly the same thing.
All right, we thank you for joining us, and we wish you well in your endeavours. Climate scientist Nicholas Herner.
Thank you.